Welcome, everybody. This is so exciting. We have a special panel for you today. I'm your moderator, Chief Technology Officer at Mixbook, DJ Charles, visiting from the US. I'm happy to be traveling with my colleague on the executive team at Mixbook, David Newhoff. He's our Chief Product Officer. He's been in the imaging space for a long time. He's also an expert at a lot of things, and he's a very strong visionary, so it's been a blast working with him. And I'm also traveling from the US with Michael Strittmatter, wave your hand. He's a senior technology lead and runs a lot of the innovations happening in our mobile group. They're doing a lot with AI, they're doing a lot with computer vision, and it's exciting to have Michael here. It probably makes sense for you to, for the internet audience again, to introduce yourself. We'll just sort of go down the line here.
Hi, I'm Traian. I'm an AWS user group leader and community builder in Moldova, and my scope is to organize the community, organize events, and get technical people together to speak about different things and do presentation about different things. And in the free time, I enjoy flying, I enjoy traveling, and I spend a lot of time with my puppy.
Awesome. And Michael, I gave you a quick visual intro, but feel free to tell people who you are.
So Michael Strittmatter, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, work for Mixbook, obviously, and I've been doing mobile for a long time, all in photo companies, and so a lot of work recently with photo analysis and using AI and machine learning for all of those things. It's a really exciting space to be in, so it's definitely exploding right now.
Awesome. Yuri?
Yuri Ohan. I'm a senior tech lead at Mixbook Moldova. I've been in software since I was in school from the Olympiads, and my biggest passions are around systems, around databases, AWS included, but I'm the guy who usually solves a lot of problems with DB queries.
Interesting fact, Yuri is our local professor of many things. He is very good at visualizing, very good at taking lots of information and presenting it in a format that allows people to understand things, to learn about what we're doing. So I affectionately refer to Yuri as our special professor from time to time. He's not only a brilliant technology lead, but he loves to impart knowledge, and it's a great thing that you're here in the community and in the company, so thank you, Yuri. And if you're here earlier for Yuri's discussion about cost optimization, you saw just that. David.
Great.
The man who sailed around the world. I like to tell people that.
Well, thanks for the intro. David Newhoff, Chief Product Officer at Mixbook. And great to be here today. Great to be in the beautiful offices of Mixbook and in this wonderful, gorgeous country of Moldova. Little country, big heart, it says it at the airport. And I really love that about the office here and all the people that I come across here. So really looking forward to this discussion and our role in shaping the future of storytelling.
Awesome. And Olya Medvedeva, please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Olya Medvedeva. I'm product manager here at Mixbook. I am passionate about solving user problems and in general making lives better for our users. I work for Create team. We are trying to make the creation process as fun and memorable as it could be, and so that our customers, they come back to us as often as they would like to. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, with that, we said that we would get into some real world problems, real world solutions. I think it would be, we're going to take questions, of course, but I think it would be great for you to understand some of the perspectives here from a product manager. And so I'll ask you right now, we'll just get the panel started if that's okay.
Yes.
My question for you, Olya, is what customer problems are we solving? And how can we make our solutions impactful or maybe future-proof?
So Mixbook is about photo books, or it used to be about photo books. And what is a photo book essentially? It's a memory, a cheat sheet for your memory. So you open the book, you see a photo, and you remember something. The photo book is static. People come to us, make that book, and they kind of open it over time and try to remember what was happening and what emotions did they feel. as you understand, creating one, it's not that easy. It's very difficult to preserve your memory, to create that artifact which speaks for your soul. That's why it's a problem that is very interesting to solve. People used to do photo books long before the software was created, so we did like some scrapbooking, we did some like albums. Now you have more advanced technology to do so, but it's still very difficult. And it's still static. And when you think of the tool that can improve it, you think that the memory should be preserved as intact as possible, not in a static form, but in a form which really visualizes it for you. So that's how we're thinking about our future. We are trying to apply technology to make memories alive. And here, Amazon really can help us, and we can use the latest technologies of the cloud to basically sprinkle that technology into our software and to project it into the future. So, one more thing. We should make it not only live, but also magical for the user. And to make it magical, we really should use the latest state-of-the-art technology and to make it as fast as possible. Because when you're thinking about something, when you're remembering something, it pops up immediately. So how can we make software as intelligent and as exciting as the thoughts in your head, as your emotions inside your heart? We're using all that technology collected together and give it to our users.
Wow, and the world's changed a lot. I mean, there's a lot more to consider in terms of how we would deliver solutions today. The way that we may approach a problem 5 years ago, it's very different today. Yuri, I'm going to put you on the spot. What kinds of technologies are we using to achieve some of these very important and lofty goals?
Yeah. So first of all, AI is here to stay. Like, working on AI today is an exciting thing. Like, we couldn't probably imagine it 5 years ago. But technology usually goes through these loops of booms. So nowadays it's AI. And if we talk about AI, it's usually training the model and inferring from the model. So if we talk about training, usually stay within your AWS SageMaker. And yeah, it's a separate field with lots of challenges how to train a model efficiently. And as soon as it's ready, you need to pick the right compute to infer it and scale. And one of the best options so far is inferential too. So this is what we do. Like, you can of course do it on GPU-based instances, but that's not as cost efficient. And usually you are after speed and after cost optimization. If you want to deliver something with AI, it should be fast because you want it to feel magical.
And we saw the performance statistics that you showed in your presentation today. When you chose Inferentia, was this a matter of speed? Was this a matter of convenience? A matter of addressing? Was it all of the above?
All of the above. So like speed and cost efficiency.
Yep.
AWS AI services are not that cheap, so we want to keep the cost under control. You have on-prem solutions, like for example, we used AWS recognition to recognize faces on the photos and labels on the photos. But imagine you have a flow of, I don't know, a million photos a day, and how you can go to the page and do the maps really easy and find out how much you're gonna pay. If you're gonna train the model to analyze each photo and you're analyzing millions of photos per day again, you need to project how much will you pay for that. And if it's sustainable for the business and if the AI components bolster your product that much that this money will pay off.
Can we build these things ourselves? Do we need to rely on a cloud provider to provide these kinds of services, or do we have our own capabilities to train our own models?
The whole field is new, but it's already so vast. It goes, and it's not really new. AI really existed long before that boom. So yeah, beyond AWS, there is so much resources to soak in. One of the great resources which I can recommend is Hugging Face community. They are one of the best AI professionals out there. Of course, their services cost a lot, but you can at least inspire from their article and blog materials. And this is how our team stumbled upon Inferentia. But if you go to Hugging Face blogs and read about AI, they post like all their trials and errors all the time, and yeah, you need to look past AWS to do these things efficiently.
I was going to say another aspect that we can take advantage of and do take advantage of is, kind of edge computing, if you will. A lot of the same kinds of things that we do on the server side with AWS recognition, we can do on the client side with our iOS client at this point, and Android in the future. On the client before you upload the photo, and so by kind of taking a spread approach like this, you can ensure that you get the same data from multiple locations, feed it all into your backend so that it's all usable in the same way, whether the faces came from the client or the server. Either way, you still can do the same compute, the same analysis of the photos, and take advantage of the intelligence gained from that.
I believe you were training your own models using something called ML Kit. Do I have that right?
Yeah, on the Apple ecosystem, it's called Create ML to train your own models. We're doing some of that for understanding the photos that you're taking and that you're grouping together, trying to figure out what kind of events you're taking photos of. But in addition to that, just taking advantage of the existing labeling functionality that's kind of built into every iPhone now, along with the great labeling. It can be done quickly and against the user's entire camera roll, not needing to actually upload the entire camera roll to the cloud, obviously, because that could be a security concern, but we can still take advantage of all of that. And then when the user says, yes, these are the photos I want to use, we can consolidate all that up to the server. They can combine them with other photos that are already on the server, and it really can take a consistent approach across everything, all of our services. Awesome. There's a lot of excitement around generative AI, Bard. We've got a lot of potential in that space, but you've probably seen some of the articles where Hewlett-Packard engineers had used prompts to assist them with coding and had released inadvertently a large amount of their code base to the wild. We do need to think about security in the future. I'm very encouraged and hopeful by what we're seeing with the cloud providers. It's my hope that we'll be working on training, doing so quickly, scaling on those models, understanding what we can do in real time, allow ourselves to feel safe, our customer data and information to feel safe. It's hard to innovate when you're thinking so much about scale. You're thinking so much about capability. And I think that the movement we're seeing with the cloud providers, and I can't speak specifically to anyone, but we're all very bullish on the things that we're reading about directions that AWS is going in and others, that we can't help but be excited to know that scaling will be addressed, security will likely be addressed, and the kinds of things that we're going to be doing is thinking about how we can use it rather than is it going to work and are we going to be consumed with other things. I'd like to ask our Chief Product Officer, David Neuhoff, about so many companies who are looking into Gen AI. We're surely seeing a surge of companies trying to find a differentiator and trying to find differentiation in this landscape with generative AI and leaning into AI in general. What is it that makes Mixbook and our leaning different in this landscape?
Great question. Well, at Mixbook, everything comes back to our core purpose. In Mixbook, we're on a mission to empower creativity and deepen human connection. We believe that as humans, we live our best lives when we're creating and when we're connecting. And when you engage in the art of storytelling, you make a deeper connection to those memories, and those memories have a voice. And in the voicing of those connections, you get to learn a lot more about yourself and in your connection to others. And those connections voice things like, I love you. I'll never forget you. I'm so glad we're together. And that mission is at the core of who we are and what we're building. And we hold a really important thing in our hands as product and engineers. And that trust is not something that Mixbook will ever let down our customers. How we're going to differentiate is a big part of that mission. We want to help our customers, just as Olga said, celebrate those memories, but in a truly unique way. We're on the very edge of this new wave of creativity, and a wildly unique but deeply personal, and for Mixbook that is around our design and our simplicity and that trust.
I love the idea of using AI for good. We're seeing a lot of companies trying to find a way to use AI for good. Do we have a trust problem? Is the consumer aware of the prompts and the information that we're deriving in order to provide a service? Do you think that we have a challenge with the general public to over-promote the fact that we're using AI securely and we're using AI for the best intentions? And is AI for good a big part of our mission?
100%. And there's a lot of fear around these technologies right now and how various engineers and end users and developers are going to be using it, and how end customers are going to use it. There's a lot of fear and ambiguity on how that's going to get used or misused. And I know for us at Mixbook, that's not something that we take lightly.
Yeah, I'll just remind the internet audience, if you have questions, you can send them directly to me here, slido.com. 113-7327 is the code you need to put in. And if you do, and you want to direct them to David or anybody here, I can make sure that questions get to specific people as well. So feel free to use that service. Thank you, David. Back to generative AI. We have a huge responsibility and a huge burden of understanding what we're doing. You have to be careful. The news cycles are going to be full of a lot of big brands and big companies that maybe inadvertently didn't get it right, or there was a breach. Some sort of a breach in confidence is something that will affect all of us. So I think the more that we can do to understand where to go, how to navigate this, how to use data well enough to be able to market security is going to be one of the things that we're going to see defining the future. The other is the controversial quest for authenticity. I don't know if you've seen the news over the past week or so, but we've had some copyright infringements from some of the largest brands that we all know. We've had also social backlash from companies who are using AI to depict images and stereotypical images of certain cultures and people. So, there's, with any big movement comes some degree of discomfort, and we have to be willing to understand where that's coming from and the importance of that. And I'll just read a statistic about the engineering landscape here, and this will be directed at you, Michael, because I know Michael and I have had a beer from time to time, and we tend to have very healthy debate on specific topics. And this is one that I'm going to let you in on and see if maybe you can chime in as well on this. So you've undoubtedly seen the dire predictions about how artificial intelligence will wreak havoc on the workforce. Most notably, investment bank Goldman Sachs predicts ChatGPT and similar forms of AI could trigger the loss of 300 million jobs around the world. Generative AI, good or bad for tech jobs, and why?
So I think that, take software development as a use case there. There's many different aspects of software development that, generative AI, large language models just don't really have an impact on yet. The creativity aspect of programming, where it's not just putting pieces together in a rote way, but instead using your prior knowledge, your experience to do it in a way that is, solving the problem in new creative ways. There's the aspect of debugging and maintaining large systems where you have to be able to analyze problems that are happening, dynamically without prior experience other than just the general idea of how such problems happen. And then there's also things like understanding your customer, understanding the business needs. You know, the large language models, those don't have the ability to analyze those aspects of your business and really kind of understand your unique cases and how that can be then put together into a system. Now, in all honesty, those answers are from a large language model. I asked this question ahead of time and had them say,
Of course you did.
do I need to worry as a programmer for a large language model taking my job? And those were the reasons that it gave, that I don't necessarily have to worry about that. But that's just an indicative piece about this field, is that it's a tool. It does a superhuman ability to distill information and provide you that information in a human readable way, human understandable way that you know, it would take, you know, Google plus you know, all these infinite services to replicate. And so as a programmer, do I write sorting algorithms any longer? Do I do 3D rendering code any longer? No, I load up OpenGL and write, you know, the actual 3D code that way. I pull up a algorithm book or a website and figure out the optimal sorting algorithm and then use it. You know, the job as a programmer is to then raise the bar even beyond that. You know, what can you do beyond the simple rote basic answers and build these systems in new, unique ways? You know, it's not, you know, oh wow, look, I learned how to rotate a cube in 3D space. It's, no, look, I wrote a game that is in full 3D with all of these pieces working at 60 frames per second. You know, that's the challenge as a programmer. And, you know, every time the tools raise the bar for us, we then use the tools to create things that weren't even possible before that. So I think that the job as a programmer is pretty safe.
I think, you know, a lot of us who've been doing this for a long time remember we've gone from Notepad to NPM. And I remember talking to Yuri about my journey in technology over about 30 years, how, you know, we started from a blank page. And I look up 20 years later and we're doing NPMs that are downloading entire universes of configurations and running things locally. We used to take weeks to get our environments up and running. And when Michael and I have talked about this in the past, you have used a pretty interesting example about image coordinates. Almost, you know, the brute mechanics of coordinates for plotting, which is really the bare essence of positioning. But you think of now the ability to automatically lay things out, the ability to look at contrast, the ability to take information that was almost invisible to the naked eye, and to use that in ways that we used to start from here and now we're starting from there. It's my hope and my firm belief, really, that we are going to be doing more from ground zero than we've ever done before. And it's about how we think and how we approach problems. All right, I want to talk about authenticity for a minute. How do we feel about training models with information that doesn't belong to us? Yuri, do you have a moral tick about taking someone else's content and training a model on it? How do you feel about it?
I think there are obviously moral obligations. It's not for no reason that CCPA, GDPR compliance rules have appeared. It's like almost every website from starting about 2 years or maybe 1 year ask you to accept the cookies. And I think this is like, we as engineers have this obligation. It's just like on us taking this data seriously, making sure we don't leak it, making sure it's secured privately, the database is encrypted, and yeah, we have the life cycles. And if the user is concerned, obviously every software nowadays should have a way to remove the user data, wipe it out, and to the point when you cannot identify the person from the data anymore. So,
yeah. If we take a Picasso, for example, and decide to use that as part of our training set or our transformer, I wonder where this is going. It makes me wonder if we're creating a problem that obscures the Picasso, but that gives us the gestures of Picasso. And is that the same as copyright infringement for someone's work? I think about songwriting. I think about works of art. All of the billions of information sets that are being put into these large language models. We have a tremendous opportunity to look at our own use cases, look at what's specific to the things that we do, and to find uniqueness in the patterns and the data that we have so that we're not recursing into the same outputs for everything that we see. I think we're going to see a lot of the same in areas of art. We've seen it in the university systems with term papers. Don't tell me no one's ever tried ChatGPT to get through an assignment. Curriculums are changing based on interactions and how people think. Brian?
I want to say that in music actually, like if you follow the patterns in the last couple of years, you see a lot of songs that are just remakes of songs of the 80s, 90s, and it's just because the labels own the copyright for that, and if they want to do a new release with new words or something, they can just reuse the patterns from very popular songs.
Yep, and I think the quest for authenticity is becoming more challenging. There is an air of spontaneity that we find in some art that's hard to reproduce. It's hard to predict. I'm hoping that the age of training these models will get us to a new place to dazzle people with services that are impactful to them, saving them time, giving them more of their life back to do the things they want to do, but building works that mean something to people in this busy life that we're in. I love the idea of someone being able to create a book and labor over that book for 3 months, and then to allow for technology to give them an even better product in 15 minutes, for example. And I think the play space, the toy box that we have to create with is rapidly changing.
I'd add also to that, you know, an aspect of this is the personalization piece as well, that training a model could be on your information. It could be on you, and instead of looking at it as a potential drawback of, you know, copyright or duplicating, it could be a representation of you and your style, your wording, your phrases. And you know, as a company that's all about building a personal product, I think that that's a really exciting angle for us to investigate, is, you know, that ability to, you know, create you know, a helper for your own style, for your own personality.
Which also opens the door to the fraud landscape. And how do you feel about the possibility to be fooled? And I mean, very convincingly fooled.
I think that, you know, with all of those technologies will come the technologies trying to find them. You know, with the speed of students trying to use these models to create term papers, are the companies that the colleges will hire to find the people who are using the tools. And so it's, you know, I guess a race much like anything else, where, you know, if I wanted to do finding fraudulent signatures on contracts, you know, I bet you a AI model would do a really good job by taking a look at 100 examples of a signature that somebody did. It could probably pick a fraudulent one out of that really easily. And so, you know, it's the kind of thing where you can use it for both, I suppose. And so it'll be an arms race, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we used to think, and we still think, in terms of surface area, you know, with security threats. The surface area of an attack. It seems so simple, doesn't it? I mean, now these systems can authentically reproduce your chief technology officer. If an inbox were ingested, think about the tone of voice and all the things that could be assimilated into a system like this. I'm not so much worried about surface area, and not so much even about authenticity. I'm worried about now speed, because I don't think we can respond fast enough to a credible threat or a request to a CFO to wire money. The kinds of things that could be sent to 2,000 employees in 1 second, the probability that someone would engage in that as something that would make it hard for the biggest infosecurity teams to even.
But that is one of like good products in AWS, where it's fraud detection. And if, for example, it will analyze all your transactions and see that typically your pattern is maybe wiring $1,000 to someone, and when you wire $1 million in a random day at midnight, it will automatically flag it as a fraudulent transaction. Like, I don't like to call it AI. I can be the black sheep. I don't like to call it AI. Like, I call it trained models. And I have a colleague which also says we are far away from AI, because AI will understand in a millisecond, like, for example, if it has a moral implication. And I love to play with ChatGPT and feeding it the trolley problem, or how my friend says, like, especially with the new Tesla Vision, like they kept the cameras and they took all the other sensors away, and she says, imagine like that there is no training for a couple of people that are stoned doing nasty things in the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard, and no one of the engineers thought of putting that in the model. How will the Tesla react? And like I always, like, one of my favorite books is Inviting Disaster. I don't remember the exact name. And especially from in aviation, you learn from, like, you know, bad things that happen. And nowadays, like, more and more car manufacturers try to get, like, predictive AI, like, models of, like, preventing accidents. So I would not love to have, like, a fully autonomous car, but I would love to have a car that, you know, it understands that if a pedestrian jumps in front of it or something happens, it will just press the brakes. Or if there is a like having, like, the Internet of Things, the connected things, if one car is coming at a high speed from an intersection and your car is coming from another intersection, it's connected to the traffic light, then it will prevent a possible accident. Like TCAS in airplanes, like, it knows that they are on the same level, flying the same course, you get a warning. And then if the pilot doesn't react, it just separates the altitude. So, like... So
you don't use AI. We have a question from the internet audience, if you don't mind. Do you want a counterpoint on this?
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you lost me at getting stoned on Santa Monica. I thought I was in a Sheryl Crow song. But getting just back to this moment of disruption, and back again to some of the fear, and, you know, technology doesn't wait. You know, disruptions like this don't wait. They don't have guardrails. This is the industry, there are businesses, they're looking for those guardrails, but the technology is not going to wait for it. I remember when internet was first on the scene, and the fears about, you know, I would never do online banking, and I would never, you know, I would never do my mortgage. I mean, now all that's out the window. And there was another disruption with mobile. I think we're, you know, at the precipice of yet another really big one, and it's going to ask big questions of humanity and of businesses. And I think the value of something like AWS from a business point of view is exactly what you said. It gives us some guardrails to ensure that the trust that we need to deliver for our customers.
But still, there will be some things we'll never trust. Like, as you said, fully autonomous car. We've been in the software long enough to not trust the car to do it for us.
Oh yeah,
well, you might trust it the way New York is laid out, but you might not want to do that in
The
Keisha.
most precious things for you: life, your kids, raising your kids, or like something which it's personal for everyone. But you probably still there will be something which will be like, okay, I want to do it. Until maybe we are disrupted again.
I think it's a very human problem to solve. So what you are talking is just like human psychology. It's fine balance between automation and control, which we are trying to solve here at Mixbook. And automation is pushing its limits all the time. And it's natural for you to accept it. You don't even realize it, but step by step you accept it more and more. And you lean into it naturally, and you feel that it's part of you already. It's not out of your control, you're controlling it, but actually you're tricked already.
I think it comes back to the tools again, right? It's a tool. You could use it for whatever aspect of simplifying your life makes sense. My wife has hundreds of cookbooks that never get opened anymore. Because why bother when you can just look up the recipe on
She
your
is
phone?
watching.
Why bother when you can look it up on your phone and it will instantly convert to a double recipe just by typing the number 2 into the box. I think the same thing is going to happen here, where it's like there'll be pieces of our lives that we just couldn't believe that we ever bothered to, write a summary of a article, because it does such a good job at writing a summary. And other pieces where, the creativity that we want to bring to our lives will still be required.
Great topic. Tryon does not call it AI. We have a question from the internet for Olya or David. How do you educate a user about what AI is doing with your products? Do you disclose AI is being used and how it is being used? What are our plans here?
So we already discussed that there is some concern from the user and users, and sometimes when you say AI, they don't get excited at all. We have a whole UX team who is thinking about naming conventions and how do you call it, and how do you call it so that you build trust with your users. Sometimes it's about smarts. Sometimes it's about enhancing your creativity with our technology. Users, they need to understand how it works, but they don't need the nuances of it. They just need to feel secure and they need to trust our software. So it's just about being natural and disclosing as much information as they need.
Should we be guarded about marketing AI? Do you think that we've reached a point where we have to be concerned about the public's impression of AI? Or do we have an opportunity to describe AI as something that is inspiring and motivating for a creative person to create something and to be inspired?
Yeah, I think the answer there is getting to what Michael was touching on, is that the metaphor of a tool. Like, you're really making the things that people are trying to do anyway 10 times easier. And from a marketing point of view, I think we're in a moment where you do have to be careful and sensitive to how customers are perceiving AI. But underneath the hood, there are so many companies using it, and we are using it, but we're not using it in a way that violates trust or that uses our customers' content in any way. So I think it gets back to this idea that it's a tool that can help you tell stories, and when you do tell those stories, you learn more about yourself and your place and your relationships with other people. So I think it's a very powerful tool that we believe that in the hands of our customers will make their lives better and therefore make the world better.
Anna, so, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd like to think also there's aspects about the machine learning process that gets out of this if people understand. I think that there's an education piece to this too. I've done a lot of training models of image recognition, finding particular items in an image. The model you get out the other end, there is no piece of that model where you could go and identify a photo that you gave it as a training set any longer. It's gone. It is numbers on nodes, of millions of nodes. And so I think that with some understanding there, I think that can help also, for people to understand this. Like, yes, I always equated it to, it's like you took all of the photos that you were using for training and put them in the washing machine. And then what you have is a kind of soup of color at the end of it. That doesn't tell you what the photos were at the beginning. It still can be useful, but it's not necessarily something to fear.
I love the way you always describe things, Michael. This is not really obscurity at all. We're talking about very complicated neural networks. We're talking about nearest neighbor. We're talking about a lot of things I don't understand, that we don't understand, that go so deeply to mimic the way the human brain is wired. And I think that a lot of the concerns that people have initially is that they felt that a lot of the technology leaders in Silicon Valley, for example, came together because they felt that we needed to understand, slow down and understand the implications of governance. We all fall asleep when we hear the word governance because we know what that means. It means compliance and things that we may not want to do because we're all innovative disruptors. But the truth is, we have a very powerful age upon us. I think that this is similar to what we saw in the mid to late 90s. It is as monumental, maybe more, than what occurred with the World Wide Web consortium coming out of the bulletin board era. If you think about the Stone Age of plugging your telephone into a modem, to where we are now, and it goes beyond automation as well. I think the way that we think, the way that we create, act, the way that we become inspired. I'm hoping that we're, to your earlier point, Michael, finding a new level, a new starting point. Base camp used to be down here, and now base camp is way up there. It's my hope.
And
Yeah.
one more thing. So people are afraid of everything new, but fear goes away. And if you remember of the 90s, just like 30, 20 years have passed, and we're already perceiving it as a natural thing. But now information exchange is so much faster, and people communicate much more. So that this time of fear will be much more limited. And what was perceived as some delightful experience just like half a year ago, in the next year probably will be something which users expect from us. So it will change. And as like software companies, we have to keep up and we have to be on the cutting edge of the technology, because otherwise you will just stay in the past. You will not be able to compete in that race, and you will kind of stay at that state which is what was okay for some users like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and this state is very like transient. It goes away very fast.
We have another internet question. Thank you for that, Oya. We have an internet question. How do we work with AWS in the United States? I don't want to take the whole floor here, but I will say that there are very big differences with cloud providers and the relationships that we develop as technologists with cloud providers. I've been lucky enough to have been in a lot of early stage companies that have a consortium of other companies being funded by one common group, and we've learned to describe our synergies and our strategies with our partners, and the cloud providers are the most important ones, I think. If we can, be very honest about the things that we aspire to do, whether we know how to do them or not. If a point in time comes where your cloud provider, like AWS, who I think is the most receptive of all the cloud providers, and I'm not being biased, I know this from experience, that you can find alignment with your representative, with your sponsor. Don't be afraid to explain an idea that you have to your team at AWS, to your account representative. There are some really amazing programs in AWS. Training and trading credits is one of them. They have a program right here in Moldova. And Tryon, I guess I should let you tell us a little bit about the community training activities that AWS provides here in Moldova, and then I'll get back to a little bit more advice.
Yeah, so AWS is very customer focused. I've been very happy to work with a lot of people, including professional services team, technical account managers, and in the last 2 years, the developer advocates and community managers. And so first of all, we have the amazing AWS Skill Builder, which has both a free and a paid option. So you can learn the basics for free. If you are an AWS partner or you are a company which works with AWS, you can get a subscription as part of your monthly payments for the cloud services. Then there are community events, like for example here in Moldova we did the AWS Essentials training. We are planning to do some more advanced training. We are planning to partner with the local universities, and there is a program now going on called AWS Cloud Clubs, which encourages people in high schools and universities to start a cloud club and promote AWS cloud knowledge. And obviously the user group events, the community events, the conferences, we always share a lot of knowledge. And here in Moldova we are partnered with TechWheel, and through TechWheel we do trainings. And I hope to see people at these events and learn more about AWS, learn about AWS services. From time to time, when we can, we bring people from AWS, Romania, like in general people from EMEA, which are close to us, can come on site. Unfortunately, one of the persons who was supposed to come here today didn't have a possibility to come because she was stuck in a customer meeting, which got too much longer. And but whenever we'll have events and trainings and people from AWS talking to us, we will let the community know to come and meet with people and ask their questions.
AWS does a great job. There's a long-running thread of commitment to share knowledge, share information, give those training credits, not just to kids in high school or people in new business. If you want to get a certification, for example, your company can be the first place for you to naturally get that. AWS makes it possible. They can help you with your cloud bill, and they can take your training if you reach interest or critical mass in your company. There's all sorts of negotiations that maybe you don't know that you can do to help educate your company and also help yourself in learning how to apply these things. AWS has been, over the years, 12 to 15 years, there was sort of a cloud migration credit program. If you remember, we came out of the data center age. I don't know if anyone here is old enough to remember. I think some of you might be. We were liquidating data centers. At least I was at a company liquidating 5 data centers over the course of 3 years at one point in my career on different coasts. And we would not have been able to have a high growth company that could actually migrate to the cloud without the kind of assistance that AWS provides. They will look at your spend across 5 data centers if you're in that, or 1 data center for that matter. They will help you figure out how long it's going to take you to migrate to a better situation. We've come from that to now everyone's starting in the cloud, and I bet you didn't know that you could talk to AWS about what your dreams and desires are and the kind of company you're building and the kind of growth that you want to see every year. You never know, a few years into that, you might find a very deep alignment with products that come to market. They may help you with credits to learn how to use those products. The thing that we can all bet on is that AWS has scale in mind, and it lets us free ourselves so we can think about how to use these products with the end user instead of will they work. And that's one of the most refreshing things that I've seen to date. We're all very excited about the press releases that we've seen about generative AI with all of the cloud providers. I am most excited about what our future holds because I know that the cloud provider that I've used for many years in my career focuses on security and scale and unbridled innovation, and they understand how fast you want to move. So don't be afraid to ask any of that. We've got some more internet questions, and I'm happy to try to fill at least another 5 minutes. I don't know how much more time we have. We did start a little bit early. And maybe open it up for more questions here. But slido.com, the code is 1137327. Maybe we can get back to you if we can't do it interactively. Maybe we can get back to you offline. But we have a YouTube viewer. How would we balance moral obligation and the bar that we've set for ourselves when our competition may have a lower bar? Who wants to take that one?
It's an easy one.
Yeah.
We have a mission.
Oh, yeah. I think the truth will always reveal. Like it's again, you have the risk to lose, but at the end of the day, the truth always comes to the surface. It's just a matter of time. But it's a risk. Yeah,
I can't think of a safer application. Back to the beginning of this whole panel, Mixbook has a very specific mission to empower people to be creative and connect deeply with the ones that they love. that is unwavering. Everything that we do is for the creator. It's a much safer space when we've got a garden walled approach to using a creator's insights in their space privately with them for their own automations, for their own creativity of waving their hand and their project looks like it came out of a designer's brain and it looks like Ansel Adams all of a sudden, or in the style of whatever they can dream up. I think that the play space that we're creating is a very safe and intrinsically beautiful space that doesn't compromise or market or create any concern with the general public. And that's one of the reasons we have so many rewarding interviews with candidates at Mixbook, because there are a lot of AI professionals that are being sought after by marketing companies, and there's nothing wrong with marketing. We love digital marketing, it's a good thing, but AI is not always being used for good.
I think also that it could be a benefit when you're talking to your customers. Having a strong, secure stance, a obvious position. I mean, companies use that. They highlight how they have a strong user security model, privacy, and there's no reason why that can't become a selling point beyond just the obvious user privacy aspects, but even just generic ways that the user data is used.
So true. I'd love to be able to do this, and I know we will, well enough to be able to be confident enough to market it. And I want to say that with confidence, from a technology, from a science landscape, from that perspective, I want to air gap as best we can these insights and use them for deep personal creation of amazing works. And I think that we have a lot of fun at Mixbook for that reason. We're all dedicated to that. And I think the future is going to be really exciting. Happy to take any questions from anyone in the room here today. Feel free to raise your hand. We'll give it another 5 minutes if you have anything. Anybody?
In terms of AI, what do you think are the boundaries for Mixbook in terms of using AI, especially in photography? Because I think the mission is still somehow to keep the present moments or past moments like as real as possible. And then you have the AI which kind of transforms it into a cartoon.
Okay.
If you go deep. So for me it's interesting to know your vision about using it within Mixbook. Where are the boundaries that you would use?
Okay, the question was, for people on the internet, where are the boundaries for how we're using AI in general? I paraphrase. Who wants to take it?
Well, I'll take that one. Just I think there's a customer answer there and a mission answer, as Ilya pointed out. You can create wild, fantastical images and stories with these technologies. And the stories that we're focusing on with our customers are the events that really happened and the memories that are real that happen from those events. And it's a real problem that we're trying to solve, which is these memories fade and they go away if you don't bring them back to the surface and you don't bring them to life. And there's no better way to bring those to life than through authentic, creative storytelling. And I think we have enough to win without going the fantastical route. But there are practical aspects of this technology that will help solve these customer problems. Someone that was in the background and you want to remove them, but it actually doesn't change what actually happened there from a personal perspective.
The original concept you still want to preserve, and then just small adjustments like polishings can be still kind of, it's more for image processing and
And it can also be, our model is around printing now, and AI upscaling is a real opportunity for us, and we're actively going after it, and likely so are many others. But that's a real practical use case. How you could preserve those memories, but do it through print.
so
Anyone else? Okay, well on that note, I'd love to thank all of you for coming today. Thank you to the internet audience. I hope we got to enough of the questions there. We are so excited about what AWS is doing for companies like us. They're helping us realize our vision. Stay tuned in our technology pursuits. Keep your eye on Mixbook. Go to our careers page. Contact Tryon if you're local, and let's get the community bolstered as best we can. We're going to do more of these community events. We're out here from time to time. We want to be an ambassador for AWS here in terms of what training programs there are. We want to work with Tryon to spread that message to the community. We have, I'm told, Tryon has let me know that we have access to facilities that can even accommodate much larger groups based on relationships that we have. I'd love to have a 500 or 1,000 person, maybe that's too big, summit of some sort in our future. But now that you know us, we're really excited that you got a chance to meet us. We're very excited to meet you. We'll stick around and shake some hands and answer questions informally if you'd like. But again, thank you to everyone on the panel and to the presentations today. And Sergey Sorin, who's in the audience, thank you. Rudin, thank you for your work. And very good, very well done.